welcome in to a basketball edition of the Cornhusker Huddle. I am your host, Brian Moore. Today we're talking Nebraska's big win over 15th ranked UCLA. We're also going to preview Nebraska's game tomorrow evening against the Iowa Hawkeyes. This also pushes Nebraska to a 20-game win streak at home at PBA. I think it was the 4th or 5th longest home winning streak that's active in Division I men's basketball. The vault is where Big Ten teams go to die. We need to get that on a t-shirt. That'd be an awesome t-shirt to have. UCLA came into the game with a top 10 defense nationally, and that was evident by Nebraska's performance. Bryce Williams struggled. Connor Essegian struggled. But Nebraska somehow found a way to pull this game out. If you would have told me Nebraska shot less than 35% from the floor, less than 30% from three, Bryce Williams struggled, Connor Essegian didn't make a single shot from the floor, and Nebraska beat UCLA, I would have asked you, how much stuff have you been smoking, and can I get some of that? Nebraska shot 17 of 52 from the floor for 33%. Awful shooting. They were 7 of 25 from 3 for 28%. Terrible shooting. UCLA, they didn't do much better. They shot 22 of 57 from the floor for 39%. And their three-point field goal percentage was absolutely atrocious. They were 4 of 28, 14%. That's just freaking awful. Free throws are where this game is won and lost. Not just the UCLA game, but all games. Any close game, one key indicator is the free throw line. This is where Nebraska excels. They're third in the Big Ten right now in free throw percentage. Nebraska shot 29 free throws. Nebraska knocked down 25. They shot 86% from the free throw line. Nebraska under Fred Hoiberg, especially the last 2 years or so, has been able to get to the rim, draw fouls, then get to the line and sink their free throws. As my basketball coach always said, they're free. There's no reason you should be missing them. Well, Nebraska doesn't miss them a lot. 86% from the game. They're over 80% from the line as a team for the season. UCLA, on the other hand, well, they didn't get to the line a lot because they don't take it to the hole a lot. They were 10 of 13 from the free throw line. Solid percentage, 77%. But when you're 16 free throw attempts less than your opponent, and they're drilling them at an 86% clip, you lose, just like UCLA did. Another key indicator that I look at, this is beyond field goal percentage, beyond three-point percentage. The big thing I like to look at is rebounds. This is my biggest complaint at Nebraska under Fred Hoiberg, was the poor rebounding. Well, against UCLA, Nebraska was 39 of 34. Or 39 to 34, I should say. They out-rebounded UCLA. They had a distinct size advantage. You have Braxton Mia, who's 7'1". You have Berkte Buchtengel, who's 6'10", 6'11". You have Andrew Morgan, who's 6'10", 6'11"-ish. Gary, who's just a junkyard dog. He scraps, he claws for every little thing he can get, whether it's rebounds, points, steals, hustle plays. When you have guys like that, and you add in, you have three guys 6'10" or taller, you should be winning the rebound advantage substantially more than you lose it. Nebraska had 9 offensive rebounds. UCLA had 6. Nebraska forced 15 turnovers, 10 of which were steals. We should start calling them the black shirts too while we're at it. Fred Hoiberg has found something under the last 2 years of Nebraska basketball where they are an elite defensive team. We should start calling them the black shirts. I don't see why not at this point. Good old Texas Trev. Screw that guy. Screw Texas Trev. But he did give some Nebraska basketball players last year black shirts, if you recall. UCLA forced 13 turnovers, 10 of which were in the first half. So they only forced 3 turnovers in the second half. That's where Nebraska took the lead, and they never gave it back. UCLA had 5 steals on the game. Here's where the game, like another thing too, this is another area outside of field goal percentage, outside of three-point percentage. We said rebounding and free throw lines. Those are 2 areas that I look at to define success. Here's another area. Can you avoid the long droughts? That's been a problem at Nebraska for God knows how long. Well, it's certainly starting to come to an end. Nebraska had droughts at times. They had 3 or 4 minute droughts like the one to start the game. Then they went on a 15-0 run, and then UCLA came back with their 15-0 run. So Nebraska had another 2 or 3 minute drought, but then they came back with a 9-2 run. But this is what you cannot do, and that's exactly what UCLA did. They went 8 minutes with 2 field goals. 8 minutes with 2 field goals is just unbelievable. That's just piss poor shooting. It was piss poor shot selection from UCLA, and it's elite defense by Nebraska. It's getting the first guy on the board, getting the ball up court, not letting second chance points come in, as evident by UCLA's whopping 6 offensive rebounds. It's a phenomenal job by Nebraska on the boards and defensively, but it's also terrible shooting from UCLA, as we saw. They were, what did we say it was? It was 14% from 3, and they were chucking up threes left and right. They had 28 attempts on the day, and they only hit 4 of them. I mean, Nebraska wasn't much better, but UCLA was just hot garbage from three-point line. I mean, theirs weren't even close. At least the ones Nebraska was shooting, like Connor Season, man, those things were inches off. Juwan Gary had a monster game. He had 10 points, 4 boards. He had a monster steal at the end of the game. And that was right after he had that monster block, too, where that guy jumped through the roof to get that block. He gets that block. Next possession, gets a steal, hits 1 of 2 free throws, and then he makes 3 monster threes in the game. Juwan Gary was absolutely unreal. Raleigh Wooster came up huge. He had 11 points and 4 boards. He had a big 3-pointer, and then he was 4-4 from the free throw line. Like we said, Bryce Williams struggled. He was 2 of 12 from the field. He was 1 of 5 on threes. But he had 6 boards. He had a steal. He had 16 points. How the hell does a guy like that get 16 points on 2 of 12 from the field? Well, Bryce Williams did what he does better than anybody. He takes it to the hoop, gets fouled, gets to the free throw line, and then he drills his free throws. 11 of 12 on his free throws for the game. Andrew Morgan came up big again. He should be starting over Mia. He certainly plays more minutes than Braxton Mia. He had 12 points. He was 4 or 5 from the floor. His only miss was on a 3-point attempt. He was 4-4 from the line. He had 2 offensive rebounds. He had 1 steal, which was a huge momentum-changing steal. Connor struggles, but his presence certainly opens the floor. He only has 2 points. He was 0 of 6 from the 3-point line. He had 3 boards, 3 assists, 2 steals, so he made his impact in other areas, and that's what good and great players do. When they're struggling from the field, they find ways to impact the game elsewhere. Nebraska was plus 28 with him on the floor. That's phenomenal. A phenomenal job. Plus 28 is insane. That is insane. And then we have to talk about mighty Sam Hoiberg. Mr. Sam Hoiberg. Coming in off the bench, 22 minutes, 2 of 3 from the field, has a monster 3-pointer, gets an inbounds late in the game, gets fouled, goes to the line, drills 2 free throws in a clutch moment, 3 boards, 2 assists, 3 steals. Sam Hoiberg, have yourself a day. He's not a guy that's going to get all the glitz and glamour. He's not a guy that when games are over, people are going to say, man, Sam Hoiberg is an elite player. But what we do say about a guy like Sam, he hustles. He busts his ass. He lays out on the floor for loose balls. He's got quick hands and he makes steals. This is not the first game where he's had 2 or 3 steals. Sam Hoiberg is a great gel piece for this team. He could play 15 minutes and make a monster impact. He could play 22 minutes like he did against UCLA and have a monster impact. His impact is not through shooting and scoring. His impact is through defense, game knowledge, understanding the flow of the game, and sheer grit and determination. Interesting little factoid I found on Twitter, which I am going to post right here in this vicinity, so I make sure I give the right poster on Twitter credit. Nebraska in the last 57 games is 41-16 with a 72% winning percentage. They have wins over 15th ranked UCLA, 14th ranked Creighton, 6th ranked Wisconsin, 1st ranked Purdue, and 4 straight wins over Indiana. Nebraska has a basketball team now, ladies and gentlemen. This is no longer the team that you can look on your schedule and just pencil in as a win. Not anymore. Nebraska didn't get ranked after beating UCLA, but this is a top 25, top 30 team right now. They have a chance to prove it tomorrow when they go to Iowa. Iowa's a damn good team. They're 10-4. Don't let those 4 losses fool you. Look at who those losses are to. Nebraska's at Iowa tomorrow at 7 p.m. They're 10-4 on the season, and they're 8-1 at home. Iowa's lost to 25th ranked Utah State by 8, by 2 points to 24th ranked Michigan, by 3 points to 3rd ranked Iowa State. And somehow, some way, they have their weird outlier game like Nebraska had against Michigan State. They got absolutely dismantled by Wisconsin just a few days ago. They lost by 31. So is this a team that's a borderline top 25, top 30 team? Probably. They're not the team that got blown out by 31 against Wisconsin. Right now, Iowa is favored by 3.5, depending on where you're looking. So basically, the games that pick them, you get 3 points just for being at home. At least that's the football rule. It's probably similar with basketball. On the year, Nebraska's averaging 77 points per game. They're shooting 46% from the field. Their three-point percentage is down this year. They're shooting 34% from three. And really, that's because you only have 2 legit threats from three. And that's going to be Bryce Williams and Connor Essegian. That's really your only 3-point threats consistently. Gary's a decent 3-point shooter. He shoots 34%. I thought he was a lot better, and then I looked it up. He's about 34%, which is the team average from three. Nebraska's surrendering 30% from the 3-point line, so teams aren't really coming in and hitting threes against Nebraska. Nebraska's defense is actually really, really good. They're 36 in the nation right now at points per game allowed at 64.6 per games. Hawkeyes, on the other hand, are an elite shooting team. They shoot 51% from the field. That's 6th in Division I. They're averaging 90 points a game. This is a damn good offensive team that Nebraska is going to play in Iowa City. But they're not a great defensive team. I wouldn't even call them a good defensive team. They're giving up 77 points per game. Teams shoot 47% against them from the floor. It's not a great defensive team. They're not even good defensively. This is going to be a battle, but one thing that you know is defense travels. And Nebraska has a 36th ranked defense in the country, 64 points per game. Can you slow down that Iowa offense enough so that you can stick in this game? Because if you don't slow them down and you have another game like you did against UCLA, I think Iowa's better than UCLA. Don't get me wrong. You have another game like you had against UCLA, you are going to get blown out of the gym. You're going to have to depend on the same guys that stepped up against UCLA who have not proven consistently that they can step into that role and be that go-to guy. Bryce Williams cannot go 2 of 12 and 1 of 5. 2 of 12 from the floor and 1 of 5 from threes. Connor Essegian cannot go 0 of 6 from 3. If those things happen again, Iowa is going to run away with this. You want to prove you're a top 25 team? Go to Iowa City and beat Iowa. No question about it. You do that, you're a top 25 team. A little breaking news on the Husker football front we're going to cover, and then we're going to go ahead and get out of here. Nebraska has received the Fong bomb and the Pete Nakos bomb for Alabama offensive tackle Elijah Pritchett. He was their starting right tackle this past season. He will be visiting Nebraska tomorrow, probably leaving on Wednesday or Thursday, and he's going to commit to Nebraska. Clearly, if you get the Fong bomb and the Nakos bomb, they're coming to Nebraska. So he looks to be your right tackle of the future since we missed out on the big right tackle from Washington State. Obviously, the guy from Washington State is who I wanted, but I can't complain too much. Pritchett's going to be a solid option at right tackle. He's got some things to work on, though. He's struggled in pass protection this past season. And then Nebraska has also landed a visit from Mo Westmoreland from UTEP. He is a legit NFL defensive end edge rush specialist. Played every year at UTEP, I believe. Maybe redshirted 1 year. Came from a JUCO rank. He gets that 1 year of JUCO back, which is why he is in the portal. Nebraska saw him firsthand. They obviously liked him enough to bring him in for a visit. If Nebraska can land Mo Westmoreland, that means you'd have him, Williams Nwarni, you'd have Keona Davis, Cam Lenhart, and Jalen George as your defensive end and edge. Those are 5 solid options, if not great options, to fill out your defensive end and edge players. They still need to land a defensive tackle outside of Gabe Moore, who we discussed. So I'm curious who they're going to get in this last kind of week or 2 before the portal is done with. Maybe 3 weeks left in the portal. I'm not sure on the exact date, but the options are getting very, very scarce. But that's all I got for this evening's episode. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Thank you for joining for the basketball edition of the Cornhusker Huddle. Have a great night.